So good, so good, so good.
Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack.
You know they have Marc Jacobs?
Nike? Yes.
Just so many good brands.
Vince, Birkenstock, and more brands you love are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Plus, buy it online and pick it up in-store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Now, it's Everything is Golden
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Here is your host, James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Everything is Golden. Episode 8, The Return of COVID. Actually, this story is about a Florida doctor, this one story that we start with, who was reinstated after he lost board certification for criticizing COVID-19 vaccinations. You can find the story this week in the Epic Times. A Florida physician known for being outspoken about COVID-related topics regained his board certification. It was stripped from him because he had publicly criticized COVID vaccines. Dr. John Little is trying to move forward from that experience. He has plans to help other physicians defend themselves when they are disciplined. Imagine that, disciplined for voicing their viewpoints, even though their viewpoints are not in the majority of opinion. Now that's scary in and of itself. Dr. Littell, longtime family physician, Ocala, Florida, is also a medical school professor. Well, he began posting videos, his thoughts about the COVID-19 testing, treatments, vaccinations. He started posting videos early on during the pandemic. He was frustrated to find that the content he posted was very often pulled down from his YouTube channel. He fought against that. He thought it was censorship. So he moved the content over to other platforms like Rumble. Then, in January 2022, and 5 months later, he got warning letters from the American Board of Family Medicine. That's the organization that issues his certification. That letter said his videos on YouTube and Rumble spread quote-unquote medical misinformation. And that, the spreading of medical quote-unquote misinformation, could put his board certification in jeopardy. Now, Epic Times asked this group, the ABFM, to comment, but they said they wouldn't because their policy indicates they were unable to comment about professionalism cases. They are the third largest of 24 medical boards of the American Board of Medical Specialties. Well, let's get back to Dr. Littell. In letters from that board, Dr. Littell was also told his public statements violated their guidelines. Months later, he didn't hear back from them. He kept talking. He kept speaking publicly. He thought he was under the radar. That all changed when he went to a meeting at a Sarasota Memorial Hospital board meeting. He wanted to thank the board member for letting him speak at the meeting, didn't realize that that's an inappropriate move. He was escorted out. Although he cared for many patients in hospitals, he never attended a hospital board meeting, let alone a contentious one before. That day, medical freedom activists filled the boardroom to speak against public hospital policies during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many were angry that their loved ones had been denied the opportunity to try Ivermectin. And Ivermectin is an antiparasitic for humans and animals and is widely used by some people treating COVID-19. He spoke cordially, Dr. Littell, to the board members from the podium. He told board members how treating patients with Ivermectin had been key to his success in helping them recover. And he praised hospital personnel for their work during the pandemic. Well, shortly after that, he was escorted out by security guards. Now, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, had written in one social media post about Ivermectin. Here's what the FDA had said. You're not a horse. You're not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it. 3 doctors ended up suing the FDA over the statement, saying the FDA has no power to tell doctors which drugs to prescribe, and they don't. Then on September 1st, a federal court ruled that the agency likely overstepped its authority when it told Americans to stop using Ivermectin. The FDA can inform, but it has no authority to recommend consumers stop taking certain medicines. That's what the judge wrote in his ruling. Now, the month after Dr. Littell had talked at Sarasota, the board sent him a letter saying he'd been decertified. They accused him of spreading false, inaccurate, and misleading materials about COVID-19 vaccination, the treatment, and the mitigation of the virus. They gave him 20 days to respond and appeal their decision. The reason they reviewed his record was because of his past statements suggesting that COVID-19 vaccination was a product of genetic engineering and that it caused deaths in children, caused the rise of the Delta variant, and they referenced false statements made by other doctors. In the letter, they also criticized Dr. Littell for offering to provide medical exemptions from vaccinations to patients across the country, and that he had publicly compared the U.S. public health system's response to the COVID-19 pandemic to Nazi Germany. After he got that letter, he sought the help of an attorney, Jeff Childers, business attorney in Gainesville, Florida. Mr. Childers had become active in many lawsuits around the country related to medical freedom. He, the lawyer, crafted a 64-page appeal to the board, dissected every single accusation made against Dr. Littell. Long and short of it, Dr. Littell got a review of his case. They retroactively decertified him for 3 months, which means he's not decertified anymore. They did it to save face, this board. But this, my friends, continues to be a problem. You have medical doctors who went against the conventional wisdom, which is not medicine. It is a conventional wisdom of opinion. And he had results, like many others who went against the conventional wisdom. Remember the fight over hydroxychloroquine. Remember the fight over other procedures. The mask, for instance, which now Dr. Fauci is backtracking on, saying, and I'm paraphrasing this, that there's no real study that shows that the masks were effective. Here's the problem. You had all this policy, all these mandates from government based on a narrative, not based on factual information. You had medical doctors, experienced medical doctors, professors who are actually in the field, who actually do the research and have done the research. Their opinions were tossed to the side because, quote unquote, the majority opinion felt other than they did for whatever reasons. And some of it was political, by the way. Hydroxychloroquine, what does the pill cost? 19 cents or something like that per pill versus the cost of some of the other treatments. There is a lot to unpack in American response to COVID. A lot of it will have to be unpacked by historians, by medical historians, by policy historians, because what we have seen, the lockdowns, chasing people out of business, destroying their businesses. We're still dealing with the ramifications of empty office spaces and people not wanting to go back to work. We're still dealing with people that are very concerned about vaccinations, and they don't know who to turn to that they trust. We are still dealing with the perception that a lot of policy with COVID was based on political preferences, not on medical fact. And we are also still dealing with the fact that the origins of COVID have never been fully explained, not to the American public and not to the world. There is a lot that should be addressed here that is not being addressed.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I got another story here. University of Michigan. This is from the Daily BS. The University of Michigan is asking students who test positive for COVID-19. Yes, there is a reemergence of a variant of it right now. They're asking those students who test positive to get out of their dorms, go to a hotel room in order to quarantine for 5 days. That is according to the university website. One of the things that they're recommending, yes, get out. This can include relocating to your permanent residence, staying with a nearby relative or friend, or finding a hotel. students in Michigan housing must leave their residence halls during isolation, even, they say, if it is at a single room. The ACLU, turning now from COVID-related news to other news, this is gratifying, I guess, to some. The American Civil Liberties Union is suing the Indiana Department of Corrections on behalf of a transgendered inmate, Jonathan C. Richardson, also known as Autumn Cordileone, who was convicted of strangling his 11-month-old stepdaughter to death in 2001. Why is the ACLU suing? A recent Indiana law adopted July 1st prohibits the Department of Corrections from using taxpayer money to fund sex reassignment surgeries for inmates. The ACLU is arguing that under the lawsuit, that prohibiting these inmates from receiving sex change operations is a violation of the 8th Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Richardson is serving out a 55-year prison sentence for reckless homicide. The ACLU says it is medically necessary for him to have a sex change operation. Now, there is an aspect to this case that will cause people to become a little bit angry. While he was incarcerated and awaiting trial, Richardson was asked repeatedly if he knew what he was being charged with, to which he responded murder. At that point, another officer checked his booking sheet and advised Lieutenant James Spence that Richardson was incarcerated for reckless homicide. When Lieutenant Spence relayed that information to Richardson, his response was, "Well, all I know is I killed the little effing B.I.T. You can figure out the rest." This is the person, the human, that the ACLU is spending so much money on to make sure that while he's serving the 55-year sentence for killing a toddler, that he can get a sex reassignment surgery. Other legal matters, somewhat lighter note than that last horrific story. A Connecticut man says it had felt like he won the lottery when he discovered a bag with nearly $5,000 in cash lying in a parking lot. Found the bag, so you know what he did? He kept it. This story is at ABC News in case you want to track it down. 3 months later, he was charged with larceny. Turns out that bag, this happened in Trumbull, Connecticut, which Trumbull police said was clearly marked with the bank's insignia. It was found outside the bank. It contained cash from the town's tax department. There were also, police said, numerous documents inside that identified the rightful owner of the cash as the town of Trumbull. The man, Robert Withington, 56, lives in Trumbull, says he didn't steal the money. He didn't notice anything in the bag that indicated who the owner of the money was. It's not like this is planned out, he said. Everything was in the moment and was like I hit the lottery. That was it. The Associated Press left a message seeking further comment from him on his business phone. His number is no longer in service. Apparently, a member of the tax office couldn't find the bag after he arrived at the bank to make a deposit. Guess he dropped it. Now, Mr. Withington said he walked out to the parking lot. This is what he had told an earlier news reporter at Hearst. He'd walked out to the parking lot, saw something on the ground. There was like no one around, so I picked it up. It's not like I stole something. If I knew I was wrong in the first place, I would have given it right back. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Now, when police finally did catch up with Withington, they said he readily acknowledged being at the bank that day and taking the bag. He told them he believed he had no obligation to return the bag to the rightful owner. He is charged now with a third-degree larceny, a felony, which is punishable by up to 5 years in prison and up to $5,000 in fine. So that $5,000 that he found may cost him $5,000 and 5 years out of his life. He says, anyone who knows me knows I'm all about generosity. After living in this town for 20 years, he said, I'm not looking for trouble. Well, you may not be looking for trouble, but when you found that bag with $5,000 in it, you may have found more trouble than you could believe.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at polestar.com.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Last story. This one from CBS News. A Delaware man who police blocked from warning other drivers of a speeding trap has won $50,000 in a lawsuit. This happened in Delaware. Delaware State Police have agreed to pay $50,000 to resolve a federal lawsuit filed by a man who said the troopers there violated his constitutional rights by preventing him from warning motorists about a speed trap. Jonathan Guessford, 54, said police unlawfully prevented him from engaging in a peaceful protest by standing on the roadside and holding up a small cardboard sign which said, "Radar ahead." After he was driving away from an initial encounter with those cops, he raised his middle finger, and then police stopped him for improper use of a hand signal. That charge was later dropped. But the point of the matter is, when he took it to court, he won. He has every right to stand out and warn drivers that there was a speed trap ahead. And for that, he kind of wins the lottery, a winner of life's lottery. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening. Everything is golden, for some people at least. And we'll see you all next time.